New Zealanders eat 1 billion eggs a year, a growing proportion of which are free-range. It's an up-and-coming market for egg producers and shoppers alike. But what does free-range really mean? Does it guarantee a happy hen like this one roaming freely in a small flock, or is it just a marketing term that egg producers use to entice buyers with a conscience? Tonight, Target investigates.
I think the public will be very shocked to see the conditions that some free-range hens live in on some farms.
The public have no idea that the majority of eggs that they're eating come from hens that never even see the light of day, let alone green grass.
When you look at some of the marketing that is being done for free-range, lush pastures, trees, and then you go back to see the farm that that egg came from, then they're selling an aspiration, not a reality.
There are 78 free-range chicken farms in New Zealand. Some are small-scale operations housing as few as 1,500 chooks, others stock up to as many as 30,000 birds. While every one of these farms has to comply with basic food safety regulations, there are no laws which specify optimum conditions a free-range hen should be kept in. Most farmers follow the 2005 Animal Welfare Code, which simply says a free-range chicken should have access to an extensive outdoor area, which should be free of mud, contamination and dust. The code also advises a maximum of 10 free-range birds per square metre, which is slightly less space than a barn bird has. That's the equivalent of these 2 pieces of A4 paper. It's a worrying squash, but what's more worrying is at present, there's no one policing the few guidelines there are.
The description in the Welfare Code is just that, it's a description. There is no enforcement of the codes. I mean, that's right across the board. The codes are unenforceable, and of course it's not policed. So any farmer basically can be doing anything and saying that they're free range.
The lack of regulation has led to poor welfare standards, and some farmers have even been prosecuted for passing off caged eggs as free range. The Commerce Commission is currently investigating one such case. Target's own investigation into free-range chicken farms showed large differences in the way farmers treat their flocks. Gold Star Farm was the worst farm Target saw. Its buildings were dilapidated. This chicken is clearly poorly looked after, and the shed we saw was bare, with no places for the birds to perch. The outside conditions were abysmal. The ground was muddy and waterlogged. So how can shoppers tell where their eggs come from? One way egg producers differentiate from one another is to label their packets with ticks and certification schemes. But what do these mean and how legitimate are they? The most well-known is the SPCA's blue tick scheme.
The scheme is really one to ensure the welfare of the birds. Farmers pay us a levy, we go onto farm and audit against our set of standards so that the animals have enough space to do the things that we believe that they should be able to do, to move around freely, flap their wings, dust bathe, scratch, because those are the things that matter to the birds.
Sunset Farms became members of the Blue Tick when they set up their free-range operation in 2007.
We want to do it once, do it right from the start. The free-range industry is quite feral. There's a lot of things that need to be tightened up. People can build a shed and put 10,000 birds in it and open the door and expect the birds to go out and be free-range.
Sunset now has several farms producing eggs, all of whom follow the SPCA guidelines.
If you want to stand behind your product, you've got to be credible, and we are. We've got nothing to hide. The independent auditor can pop into the farm anytime he likes, so it's within the farmer's best interest to be in tip-top condition. Records, bookkeeping, the condition, age of the birds, it's all documented.
But despite it being a not-for-profit scheme, the SPCA's only managed to get 4 egg producers to sign up. That's because most farmers would rather police themselves. Friends is one such example, a collective of 20 farms which are certified by an auditor paid by the company. They follow the government's organic standards, which are posted on the internet for the public to see. Each flock can't be more than 1,500 birds, which are rotated around 4 pastures. That's the key to a good free-range egg, says Rob Darby.
The eggs they do lay are definitely better eggs, just as lamb or pork or any other animal. If it's on green grass and it's eating grass and bugs, they impart all those omega flavours and all those omega benefits into the product that they produce.
So that leaves us with the red tick. Target couldn't find any independent certification scheme with a red tick, so is it legitimate or not? Earlier we learned how a lack of national standards mean free-range chicken farmers are at liberty to run their farms however they see fit. As a guideline, most farmers follow the 2005 Animal Welfare Code, which says that free-range chickens must have access to an extensive outdoor area, but it doesn't guarantee that they'll be treated well. Take Gold Star Farm, which Target visited earlier in the program. It was the worst example we saw of poor welfare. When we reported our findings to the Ministry of Primary Industries, they told us Gold Star are currently under investigation, and the Egg Producers Federation have been aware of the problems at the farm for at least 3 years. Which begs the question, why are they still in business and selling to the public? Target called the owner of Gold Star Farms. This is what he told us.
Chicken, no more chicken in here, and we close this week, and from next week, nothing.
He told us he'd be taking the sign down. We don't know what will happen to the chickens. So, how can you be sure your eggs aren't coming from a farm like this? And can you trust the packaging egg producers use? Let's take a look at Otaika Valley free-range eggs. This is their packet. But this is their farm. It's an industrial-sized barn containing over 30,000 birds. Not many trees for that many chickens. And what does this red tick mean? After extensive research, we found nothing. Turns out there is no official red tick certification for free range. So we asked the company. On the phone, the director of the company, Peter Sandel, told us he follows the welfare code and is independently audited by food giant McDonald's, to whom he sells eggs. With regard to the red tick, the company told us,
until there's a nationally agreed symbol, we feel it's important we have something on our packaging which gives our consumers confidence that they are buying real free-range eggs.
And what about the picture of the single chicken under a tree? Do they think this is misleading, considering there are very few trees and over 30,000 chickens? This is what they had to say about that.
Having a bird under a tree is quite a realistic sight on a free-range farm, no matter what the size. We planted 700 willow and poplar trees in mid-2011 and have iron and wood shelters for the birds.
So the picture that's emerging is somewhat chaotic, with companies awarding themselves ticks of approval and marketing strategies that may not reflect reality. Target believes it's time something was done. And so does the Egg Producers Federation, who are also concerned about the situation.
Multiple accreditation schemes, while well-intended, are confusing for the consumer and could be seen as self-serving.
That's why it wants to start a national accreditation scheme based on the government's new welfare code coming out later in the year.
We're going to get a third-party auditor. We're going to audit against the welfare code, the 2012 code when it comes into effect, and we're going to allow farmers who meet that audit to put that on their packaging that they have been audited. We think that will be good for consumers, it'll give them certainty, and it'll give farmers certainty as well.
In Target's opinion, until the government and the egg industry get their own house in order, shoppers shouldn't necessarily rely on egg packets for their information. Instead, do your homework and find out for yourself.